What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another SP fishing video. I've got something very cool going on today. I've been keeping a bit of a secret from you guys. So I'm meeting up with Matt Downs from Tricked Tins, and I will explain how we met up. So I know that I haven't mentioned Matt here on the channel yet, but I was reached out to probably 2 or 3 months ago from somebody I follow on Instagram who goes under Sham for Real, and he said, I need to reach out and talk to Matt. Checked out his page. He had some of the most intricate builds that I'd seen anywhere. I reached out to him and he basically gave me an opportunity that I could not pass up. I've been talking to Matt for the last 2 or 3 months, a few times a week, and he invited me down here to share a John boat build with you guys. And this boat is actually going to be the boat that I'm going to be fishing out of for the foreseeable future. We're going to go in here, meet up with Matt. He's going to tell you a bit about himself, a bit of his experience building boats, and we're going to get to see him work some of his magic today.
Introduce myself and just kind of tell what I've been doing, and you want me to get into all of me and you type deal?
Yeah.
All right. So my name is Matthew Downs. I've been a welder fabricator for 20 years, and 10 years ago I built my first boat. Kind of took off from there, just turned into a passion. And I've been building them behind the scenes for a long time. There's a big tournament calling in my area. These guys that are bass fishing. And with these smaller John boats, they don't come with all the amenities you might get with a larger bass boat. So that's kind of where I found my niche, to turn these boats into the same style and luxury of a full-size bass boat. So about maybe 6 months ago, not even, I started getting into social media, and a lot of people started seeing what I was doing with it, and there's a whole lot more of a market out there for it than just in my local area. So I started my own Facebook page, Tricked Tins Official John Boats, just to kind of showcase my builds and help us with our online sales for some of our drop-in hatches and live wells and metalwork, stuff like that. The whole time I was doing all these builds for other people, I've always been kind of collecting and swapping this and that and keeping certain things, for the simple fact that I wanted to build my own boat. I wanted to do something that was going to be outside of the box, something that was really going to kind of show what I can do and kind of harvest all of my knowledge into, a big build. So when I figured out I wanted to do that, I actually started thinking about how I can show people what I'm doing. I luckily hooked up with Matt Strikel with SB Fishing, kicked him my idea, and here we are today. We're going to be building this boat. It's a 1548 well built. It's going to be way over the top. It's going to have a whole lot of cool stuff in it that's going to blow you guys' minds. So I hope you're ready. Today the boat sits the same way it came from the factory. The only thing that I've done to this boat is I took an old wooden floor out that someone had in here, and I pressure washed it to clean it up because it was really dirty. It was sitting outside for a while. So the plan today is we're going to install the front deck framing and all the hatches for the front deck that I've already pre-made. And hopefully we're going to get the back bench live well dropped in and the floor. And that would be probably 90% of all the metal work that's going into this boat. I've been working around the clock because I knew that this first shoot was going to need to be the boat as bare as possible. So the framework was a little different on this one. I had to make it removable. So the framework is all built. All the hatches are built. Everything going to be in this boat within the next 30 minutes. These ribs, especially in these well builds and a lot of the John boats, they stick up higher than the pre-existing decks, and it's just ugly if you're gonna finish off this whole boat with a nice, front deck, and then your deck has to wrap around the ribs. So what I do is I welded these ribs lower. We're gonna chop it off. I'm gonna cut halfway through these welds and hit it with a screwdriver, pry it off, and we'll come back and sand it down. It does change the integrity of the boat, but these boats are fishing in small lakes, 9.9 motors. I've never had an issue with doing any of them like this, and it just gives it a way cleaner look, especially once all the additional framing is all welded into the boat. This 2.5 inches of rivet is basically pointless at that point anyways. This extends our deck 55 inches, and here's the width of the boat. It's a couple inches past that. It's about 60 inches inside the top of the gunnel. This frame right here that goes up against the existing deck, this is 1.5 by 1/8 aluminum angle, and all of the other tubing, rectangular tubing, is a 1x3 by 1/16, which is very light, but yet still very strong. And it works out perfectly with the 3-inch wide, because when I lay my hatches in, they'll overlap and meet in the center to make everything nice and neat and flush with no need for an extra sheeting over the top of it. Plenty of clearance. Believe it. We'll incorporate that into the wall there. We're going to come right off of that. And enclose our rod locker and then storage compartment. I think it's perfect. These hatches are all custom built. They're built in-house. I've actually built all these with my own hands. The track for these hatches, I have an extrusion on the way, but with everything else in the world, it's been back ordered for months, so I'm still waiting. But I bent all these tracks in a press brake, 45 them, welded them up. This one actually has a pan in it, make it as a little, dry storage box. But everything was cut and bent in-house. And these hatches, you see how the 3-inch tubing works perfectly, because they'll match up and be flush. Once it's sucked down with some rivets, all this deck will be flush, and won't have to add on any filler in between them. Or a lot of people put a whole sheet of aluminum over the deck, and then they cut it out and then drop their hatches in, and that's just added weight. And not only that, but then you'll have the ripple effect of your deck being lower than the hatch that drops in. This way everything's nice and smooth. When the turf goes in, you won't have any differences in heights or variances or anything like that. And I dropped it an 1/8 inch below the front deck, so it should be flush once these hatches are dropped in with the existing front deck. You can see a little ripple between there, but in the whole scheme of things, it's very unnoticeable, especially with the crazy turf we got going in here. Sweet. So we will have to cut this out for our rod locker, obviously. We will do those with this rib that we cut out. It's gonna be flexible. So I always run a piece of tubing across the bottom of these ribs, and I'll reach up underneath here and rivet it into these ribs as an extra support tube. And then I'll come off of that tube and down to one of the floor ribs with a brace, like a kickstand. So this thing will be sturdier than it ever was before. It'll have a brace down to the rib. That way it doesn't start flexing on you, or these ribs break, since we cut right through that main support rib. But perfect.
Quite possibly the quickest John boat build I've ever seen so far. So as this thing looks like it's getting put together in like 2-3 hours. What'd you say, Matt? 3 days working on the hatches?
Yeah, probably about 3 days. All the hatches and framework, maybe 30 hours total.
30 hours for just to build like the hatches and framework.
Just what you see in this front deck right here. And I actually just finished up building this one in the foot pedal tray this morning right before you got here. So far, basically, we just brought this deck back almost a 5 foot. It's about 55 inches. But the main goal of this build was to incorporate a rod locker that could hold some big rods, maybe even up to 9 feet. So the coffin style rod locker had to run in the middle of the boat, which threw a wrench into everything else because it takes up probably 50% of our front deck storage. But it's still epic because it's a huge rod locker, something that you've probably never seen in a John boat. So With that being said, this was the first time I had built a rod locker. It turned out really sweet. The door is reinforced with these hat sections here so you can walk on it. I kind of got the idea and copied it off of my my Tracker 190, so it's very similar. Obviously, all the internals of this boxes aren't in there yet, but it will be all enclosed and turfed, and you know that you'll be able to slide 9-foot rods in the center of this and easily put 7-foot rods on the sides of it. So that makes a big difference clearing off your deck when you're trying to make space for fishing. Each side has, you know, a big hatch on either side. They'll just be for storage. Basically, an angler and co-angler, or front and back seat, however you want to look at it, will have one huge storage compartment, keep all their tackle and whatever else you might need for the day trip. That leads us into the top front of the deck here, which has another compartment which is mirrored on both sides. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to run these compartments yet. They might be electrical or maybe some type of dry storage or cooler or something of that nature. But either way, this is a very deep compartment, and this will give you, you know, a couple cubic feet of space here easily on either side. So between those two compartments, basically give you a front and a back angler compartment for either side. And then that brings us to the center compartment, which Matt kind of threw in at the last minute. He wanted a compartment basically just to house his scale, pliers, whatever you might need, a couple lures or bags of soft baits or whatever, just for the day, something that's easily accessible, and you know, throw your phone in there, whatever you want to do. But it's just a small box right on the front to keep all the stuff that you want to have out, but you don't want to have out on the deck, so you're not stepping on it or kicking it around. And then we made this foot pedal control here for our trolling motor. Just cut and resets that in, so it looks really clean though. And this was maybe about an hour and a half to install all this stuff, which is pretty quick considering the amount of work that I did to it already. But I think we pretty much figured out the layout of it. I'm happy and excited about it. Get my Sawzall, and I'm gonna show you guys how to cut this out of here. I found this out after doing a lot of boats the hard way. Basically, when you do a Sawzall, it's like an 8-inch blade. It doesn't really matter what the teeth pattern is like, because just the movement of it is enough to cut through this saw foam. I'm just gonna cut some slits in it, and come back and cut some slits the opposite direction, like a tic-tac-toe board. Take them out in big chunks, back into a big mess, and it's gonna be pretty fast. To take out. Do it like that, some big chunks. Obviously it's still gonna be a little messy, but it's not like cutting this thing up. I've heard of people using, you know, hot blades and hitting it with a grinding wheel and just turning it into all the small little pieces, and it's just way overkill. You see, there's a lot of foam in there. You must fill up a trash can pretty quickly. Under the bottom and all sides, so it'll sit up flush with the hatch there. And we put it in with 1-inch closed cell foam on all sides so that it stays nice and cool, keep those fish alive.
So we're gonna call it a day and come back tomorrow and finish a bit more of this boat, but front deck structurally nearly complete. Back deck getting worked on. Live wells in, gonna be there. He's gonna do the floor, sidewalls, back hatches for the batteries and gas. Gonna get here bright and early, maybe make some hatches with Matt and then see what happens from there. See you guys in the morning. All right, back here with Matt again for day 2 of this JON boat build, and today we're going to be taking care of the floor and the back deck. And we were sitting here in front of this CNC machine. Matt just programmed it up and it's ready to go. I'm going to let him take over from here because this is hieroglyphics to me. What do you got going, Matt?
What's going on, guys? So it's a lot easier to cut these pieces out with this table instead of hand. So we're cutting these side pieces of the top out for the drop-in cup holders. Cutting out the plastic table, the Max Pro Hypertherm 200. I went ahead and drew them out. The machine's set up. So we're going to go ahead and let her eat. Put the floor in here and the side panels. We mounted this top in here to kind of connect the front and back deck together so we have a nice streamline. We threw some cup holders in here just to give it a little extra touch. This is where we've gotten in basically about 10 hours in the past 2 days. So we've got the live well hatch installed. It's not permanently installed, but it's all in place. I have to take it out for the paint job and the plumbing and everything. But the only thing we really have left is to finish out the back area where the transom is, where we're going to house the batteries and the gas tank, which is basically just going to have 2 doors, one on either side to access those things. For the front here, all the metalwork is laid out. The only thing we have left is an electrical panel. But all these hatches, everything ready to go. They all have these pull tabs. They'll all be locking. Obviously, we got to do the inside boxes and all that good stuff, but it's coming together nicely. A lot going together in a short amount of time. It's going to be a really, really nice rod locker. And our electrical panel, we kind of changed up at the last minute. We're going to put it up on the front deck, but I think for accessibility purposes, we both decided that this area right here would be perfect. So we'll have one more hatch I got to fabricate that's going to open towards the outside hull, and basically will house all of the switches for all the LED lights, the plumbing, live well, village, all the switches will be in there. It'll have all of the fuse block, all the good stuff's going to be right here, easily accessible from the back seat while you're driving the boat.
Well, good news is it's been a little while since Matt and I filmed this video of the first piece of the JON boat build. I have been back down to visit him and get a little bit more work done, and this week we should be finishing the boat. So I'm super stoked on that. This thing is coming together so well. He is like a magician building these boats. I think he did an awesome job. I hope you guys enjoyed the content on a bit of the build. So he's gotten quite a bit of work done since, and this thing is looking phenomenal. I really can't wait to get back down there. I think I'm gonna head down tomorrow, and we're gonna be basically doing the finishing touches to the boat, adding the motor, trolling motor, the graphs, the turf, and I don't know what else that he has in store, but I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Make sure you click the links down in the description below. Make sure you go check out Tricked Tins on Instagram. I'll leave his Facebook linked down there as well, and his website, PW Marine. All of those hatches and things like that, he actually custom builds and sells on his website, along with quite a few other things. So if you guys check that out, if you were looking to either build your own JON boat, or you wanted to add a hatch or do anything like that, make sure you check out the website, and I'm sure he has something for you over there, or he could probably build you custom hatches as well. But I hope you guys are looking forward to build number 2 and the final boat reveal. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. See you guys on the next one.